Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mind Your Business Show. I am your host, Milt Walker, joined today with Mr. Tony Callaway, the Private Money Godfather. How are you today, sir?
Hey, Maestro, man, it is another beautiful Saturday here in
Yes.
Columbus, Georgia, and I am doing fine. Somebody
Good.
texted me this morning and asked how I was doing. I said, I'm rising and shining.
There you go. There you go. That's
So,
right.
hey, we are up and at 'em today, and I want to thank all of you who are tuning in to the Mind Your Business Show and making us an important part of your Saturday and an important part of your life. And as you notice, today is the Maestro and I, and so I actually have had this question asked in several different forms. So we're going to address today, and Maestro is actually going to be the interviewer, and I'll be interviewed. But the topic is, how did I, Tony Callaway, become known as a private money godfather? How did I develop this business in the private capital space? So, I want you all to get inside of that discussion from a couple of dynamics. One is from a historical perspective, and I'm very grateful for a lot of help that I've gotten. But the other is, I hope I can inspire uh, you to follow your entrepreneurial passions and ambitions, because this has certainly been a fun, exciting journey that I've explored. But before we get into all of that, I just got to ask my brother, man, what's been happening with you and how are you doing?
Yeah, just been, really just continuously evolving and putting the positive energy into the world and minding my business, of course. And just really, this past week's been pretty busy for me, so
Right.
I've had a lot of things, kind of come up that I've been working on, but yeah, everything's great. Everything's great, man. How about yourself?
Oh, like I said, I was mentioning to you that we got a multi-million dollar deal that
Right.
is
Yeah.
moving down the track. So we've got
Yeah.
a $1 million was multi-million. It's single digit multi, but not the other one, double digit
Hey,
multi.
millions of millions,
One's heading on final approach, and the other one is about to take off from the runway. So, and quite a few real estate deals, business deals. Our partner Daniel Winton, operating in the Black, was reporting
Yeah.
to us at our executive team meeting that some good things are happening there, and that's informative to you as our viewing audience. You got to get capital, to power your dreams, and that's what we do here at the Private Money Syndicate. So I do want to encourage all of you to go to privatemoneysyndicate.com and schedule your consultation. Now, for my show last week, I did have two people who did that, so thank you to you both. But hey, we're here to serve all of you. We also want to ask that you like, follow, and share us on Facebook at our Private Money Syndicate page on Facebook. And then we got to get you guys to go to YouTube and go to the Private Money Godfather channel on YouTube, and please subscribe, because we don't want you to miss a single minute of the exciting things that are coming up with our 10,000 Dreams Challenge that's going to be kicking off in late September. The team and I were talking about it, and man, oh man, got some powerful stuff that's going to be made available to the folks who share their dreams, and we want to get 10,000 dreams. The Maestro is going to have a special page on the Private Money Syndicate website that's going to be scrolling. It's going to be showing if you want to send us your logo or your picture and your dream of going into business, growing your business, or real estate investing. We want to know what you guys want, and because we're here to help provide the resources to make that happen, and by you sharing your information, it's going to encourage others. And we want you to bring others into relationship with the Private Money Syndicate by referring folks to us. And all that's going to be part of some offerings that are going to blow your daggum minds, man. And so it's going to be awesome. We're excited about it. And the Maestro is already talking about what he can do for y'all. So we're going to keep you in suspense. All I know is this, is that you got to be liking and following and sharing and subscribing and telling folks about us. So for if we can get 10,000 of you to step up to the plate and do that, you will be rewarded, each and every one. So thank you so much for that. And all that intro promo and all that stuff. I do want to ask one other thing. As we're going through this conversation today, that Maestro is going to lead. I don't know what he's going to ask me, but it will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. That if you got questions about it, please put those in the chat, and we'll do as we always do, acknowledge you and address those. So, Maestro, I want to sit back and let you ask what you want to know about how I became the Private Money Godfather.
Yeah. So we got you on the hot seat today.
Yeah, on the hot seat. You see me swiveling back and forth here.
Right,
You
right,
get
right,
nervous.
right.
I'm nervous.
Right. The excitement, just the excitement of the day. But before we get into the questions and everything, I just want to acknowledge, the people out there watching and sharing this moment in time with us. Ebony's joining us, says good morning. Good morning, Ebony. Always great to have you. Such great energy. Vic Calloway is joining us, says good morning, gents. Hey brother, how's it going? Bobby Jean Ford is joining us. Says good morning, everyone. Good morning, Bobby Jean. Tiffany Lanice is joining us again. She says good morning, Superman. So
Hey, what's
she's,
going on, little Oprah?
a little Oprah, right? Ebony says she's subscribed, so she's ready for the
Thank you.
challenge.
Thank
Faith
you.
Cole says good
Hey,
morning,
Faith.
everyone. And yeah, again, just make sure y'all go and subscribe to the YouTube and like us on Facebook and make sure you're tuning in to what's happening because we're doing it all for you. So yeah, starting off, I just want to because I know a lot of times we're on here and we're interviewing other people and getting their stories, even myself, right? So
Mm.
I just want to take some time, kind of slow it down a little bit, take a step back, and just ask you. So you know who are you and how did you transition from just growing up into where you are right now? Just take us that origin story, as they say. She calls you Superman, so let's get the origin story of Superman first. Let's get some context on that. So who
Wow.
who is Tony Callaway?
All right. Tony Callaway is the oldest son of the late Gilbert and Betty Callaway in Roberta, Georgia. And for Bobby Jean and usually Horace Solomon tune in, and my brother Victor, he's the second of the three of us, know that Roberta's a nice little sleepy country. Back when we were children, it was all agricultural environment, and we grew up adjacent to my grandfather's property where he had a small farm, and that was the I think one of the important formative parts of my life. I was really close to my grandfather. I know there was a movie, Driving Miss Daisy. I think I was driving when I was 14 because I was driving him around everywhere. But just the conversations I would have with him. But I think two things are really important in addition to that is our mother was a teacher. And I say this laughingly. I used to get picked on in school for talking proper because that's how my mother talked, and that's how I learned how to talk. Even though I'm in a little country town where that was just kind of a thing. So I say I had to learn to talk slang after the fact. And the other thing is, and my brother Victor could attest to this, we always had hustles. And I think that my entrepreneurial origins were back then because we always had work to do in the fields and chores and stuff like that, but we never got paid for them. And I remember my daddy said one time, if you want some money, you need to go make it. And so we just find stuff to do, wash cars, selling eggs and rabbits, and just finding things to do to make money. And I always enjoyed having money in my pocket. I always enjoyed making it myself. And and because we were always expected to be responsible to those things that we knew we had to do, I've always been a self-starter who would go get it done because I like to. One thing I don't like about jobs, this is digressing, is you might be there for 8 hours to do something you can do in two. I like being free to get it done and go play. I mean, that was kind of the way we had to do. We couldn't play until we got all the work done. So whether it was the work and making money, or we're gonna get all that done, then we can go, as kids growing up, do what we wanted to do there. So I think those are the main facets that relate to growing up in and another thing I feel that I have always been, when I say a maverick, I'm not talking about in an extreme sense, but I never liked doing easy stuff.
Mm.
That sounds weird, but I like a challenge. And whatever that challenge was, I just, physical challenge, mental challenge, I would always just gravitate to the hard things. And, that I think that instills certain attributes in my personality and character growing up. And so yeah, that's some of the origins, I guess, to the extent that
Right,
I
right.
don't want to make that take all day. But thanks for asking. And
Yeah, no
always a
problem.
shout
No
out to
problem.
Roberta, Georgia. Look, folks, if y'all have not gone to, if you go to Roberta one, follow the speed limit. And the other thing, it's a nice, cool little town. It's changed a lot since we were growing up as kids. But I would encourage everybody. It's almost dead smack in the heart of Georgia, Roberta.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing it. And yeah, definitely so that's kind of, the beginning, right? That's the beginning of who, Tony Callaway is, and just kind of gives a little foundational work. But how did you transition from, that sleepy town into, the private money Godfather? Like what does that look like?
All right.
Over, and you could summarize it, of course, because
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
sure, you got a
this
long, extensive career. So, we
yeah,
don't.
this is going to be iterative. So I'll kind of do it in chapters. First chapter was going to college in Macon. And
Mm,
I want to tell it like it came to me in life,
right.
because my grandfather he raised peanuts. We had all kind of stuff like that, but I never really understood business. In the time that we were growing up, which I was born in 1960, and my parents they were born in the Depression, and they came along during
Mm,
I'll call it the second renaissance of opportunity for African Americans, as
mm,
affirmative action programs and those things
okay.
opened up. And so, and the first area of affirmative action was working with the government. So I witnessed all of my family
Ah,
pretty much, with me being the only exception that immediately comes to mind. On my dad's side, everybody either went to the military or went to work for government, the state, local, or federal government. That was,
that's
and
where the
and
opportunities were, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that is indeed the case. But I went to Mercer University, which is a predominantly white school, and I remember distinctly, because I was working at Sears in the paint department, which is another piece. I like selling and I like getting commissions, which I won't spend too much. I won't spend more time on that. But I remember the semester. Let's see, was we were on quarters, not semesters, but between the end of school, everybody was talking about what they were going to do for the summer. So the handful, I think it was like 60 black students out of 2,000 student population at the time, we all knew each other. And we're talking about what we're going to do. I already had a job, so I won't worry about that. But they were trying to get on somewhere. And I remember some of the white student friends of mine, they was, and again, I'm saying this in the main, they were saying, well, I'm going to go work back in the family business, or go work my uncle's business or something like that. And it's like, okay. All right. So all of them are going to go work in their own businesses. They're coming to school to get education so that they can advance the business. We're all trying to get educated so we can get on and work for them. Now, this conversation isn't meant to be racially biased, but that was what was going. That was the
Right.
observation
That's
I made at that
yeah.
time, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, okay, so
That's the context. Yeah,
that
definitely.
was not. Now I was a biology major, which but that kind of awakened me to understanding business from the ownership point of view, because I guess I'd always thought about just making money,
Mm,
the hustler's mentality,
right.
and not really trying to develop a business. So I go from college directly into the military, which I have to credit the military for helping me to grow up, because I was something else. In my younger days, when I had some money in my pocket and nothing to do with it, but to have the responsibilities of leadership,
Yeah.
in the field that I was in, learning to be an consummate professional. And I was an intelligence officer, and there are very few black intelligence officers. And from the standpoint of, there's still, there's the shadow of Jim Crow still existed. And from the
Mm,
standpoint of being taken credibly, I made it my point to always know when I said it was, when I said it was, it was. I mean, that level of professionalism and wanting to be respected, uh, gave me privileges later on, as it relates to what I said about not wanting easy. I would always volunteer for I tried to get in the special forces, Delta Force. I went to jump school, air assault school, all that kind of stuff. But later on, I got selected to go to postgraduate intelligence college, and they take 60, they would have a class every year, but it would be 60, and it'd be Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine. I didn't know the Coast Guard had intel, but they would just pick the top, it'd be like the top 5% of intel officers will compete. They get that class. So I was in there, and they told us right up front. And I tell people it's kind of like SEAL training for smart people. They said, look, the person on the left and the right, one of you is not going to get the special intel designation. And we had my friend Bart Nolde on here some time ago. He and I were both in PGIP. That was postgraduate intelligence. They called it program. It was at the college. And I was number 3 in the class, and he says he was near the bottom. I don't know where he was, but because I don't know, it's competitive. I'm very competitive. So from the military, I discovered financial services. Now that would be a whole conversation. I went from a cash guy, didn't have any credit, didn't understand credit, had bad credit, to evolving into this business. But I did discover insurance and investments as a business through a experience leading from my college roommate, Vince Amos, to Jeff Conquey, who was getting his license as an investment guy, my friend Norris, who had gotten his insurance license. I'm looking at these guys. I want to understand this stuff, because this was back in the time when Money Magazine and all these publications started coming out. So information about finance was becoming more commonplace. But I recognize, as it relates, as we get later to the Private Money Syndicate, that most people don't believe that they can understand things. And I always took it upon myself to not, something that is part of my life, like oxygen and water. It doesn't make sense to me to not understand finance. So I started studying it from a personal point of view, but then I said, well, hey, if I get into it, I think I'd understand it even better. So I got my insurance license and every investment license, securities license you can get. And I was working with Primerica, which I became a regional vice president. I had 65 reps in 8 different states and $100,000 earner and all that other good stuff. And then my partner died. Now, in the course of all this, and I'm keeping this as short as I can, I started investing in real estate. I started getting curious about real estate. I read everybody's book. And I almost hate to say it, I read Donald Trump's books. I got every one of them too, but not getting political. The fact of the matter, he was a real estate guy, but I never had the confidence.
Yeah, because that's what he was known for before he was known for
That's
being
where
the president.
celebrity came from.
Right.
Great promoter, definitely. But then I met a good friend of mine to this day, Matthew Chan, who's one of our advisors as well. And he had a little small group of people. It was kind of like a boot camp. You could get kicked out if you ain't progressing. It's like 8 of us, I think. And come to the end of it, he and I were talking about this maybe a month ago. All of us wound up buying properties, but I was the first one to buy a property. So again, my competitive side, and my dad was my partner. And Vic knows my dad was the most conservative guy in the world. But I appreciate the fact he was my first business partner. In that regard. So I bought 2 properties with him. Then we flipped a couple. And that's where I got introduced to private money as a borrower. And that was part of that. And I discovered I didn't really like flipping properties. I'd rather hold them for a portfolio. So the end of my Primerica career after 28 years occurred when my partner died. And so we went through some transitions. And so I spent a year setting up credit card machines, which that was an adventure. Definitely not for the faint of heart, but I discovered business lending because most businesses that process payments can do something called a merchant cash advance. In other words, because the payment processing company has your cash flow going through their process, they will loan you money and they'll extract a little bit every day on repayment that really doesn't have any credit underwriting or anything like that. But that introduced me to that little slice of business lending. When one of the companies I was representing was having a push to, hey, let your clients know that, they can borrow money if they're in a pinch using merchant cash advances. And so I had both of these things kind of in my mind, they were in my field of awareness, but they had not crystallized into a business opportunity. And so one day I remember sitting on the corner of my bed and I was thinking, And no, one of the guys who was with the company I borrowed money from when we were doing the real estate happened to call me up. His name was Brent Brentham. And so he said, "Hey, Tony, hadn't heard from you in a while. Just want to see if you." I said, "No, Brent, not looking to do any real estate." I said, "Matter of fact, let me ask you a question. How did you get into this business?" Because now this was in the like 2006, 7. The real estate boom was starting to take off, and you hear all stuff about real estate, real estate, real estate. And again, I dabbled in it, but I said, how do you? He said, "Well, you can actually be one of our brokers." I'm like, "Really? What do I got to do?" He said, "I'll send you the form." And so that was the first real estate relationship I had in private money as a broker. And it was just about that easy. So now we get into the ballooning into the Private Money Godfather and the Private Money Syndicate on the backside of that. But that was where I had I had a relationship where I could broker real estate, and I had a relationship in the business side where I could set people up with merchant cash advances. So that is where I'll say the Private Money Syndicate, that was the seed that was planted that has turned into the syndicate and beginnings of my evolution as an expert in that field. So I'll end that answer there and see if we got an acknowledgement since I talked for so long, and then we'll follow some other questions.
Right. No, but that's definitely insightful, because again, people tend to, resonate with how, a person journey, and we're talking about, doing that 10,000 Dreams campaign soon, right? So, part of this is seeing how this fit into what your dream was, right? And how you evolved into making this your dream and bringing your dream into fruition as well. But yes, let's look at so we did put the YouTube link into the chat. So if you want to just go ahead and just click on that link and go straight to the YouTube channel, you can subscribe. You can check out some of the videos if you want, and definitely like the ones that you do, and share it with other people, because again, a lot of this information is to help people. So it's hey, free game, however you want to say it, just give it to those who need it. And Alfreda Gibson is joining us. She says, good morning, Alfreda. Edward Winton is joining us, one of our partners. She said, "Good morning."
You,
right. Good morning, Edward. It's always interesting to see how things, because I've talked about myself and how my evolution kind of led to where I am now, and it's always good to see that in other people, because we all have that story, right? And again, tying it into that 10,000 Dreams, I want people to know that your story is a part of your journey is a part of your story. So you tell that when you continuously move towards what your goals are, so that's all part of the journey. So yes, so going from all of that, and I'm kind of just taking the insight from what you said. Taking all of that information and knowledge and experience that you gained over that course of time, it led you into becoming the Private Money Godfather, right? You saw the opportunity and said, hey, you know what? I want to do this. This is something that I want to do. Tell us about that idea and that thought, and how that, kind of crystallized, as you said,
Okay. I can clearly remember there are three parts that became the business part. So I got to go back to when I was on active duty in the military. I got my master's in management science from Troy State. And you're in the military and you're studying business stuff, so you really don't have much opportunity to do anything with it. But I became a student of business. I started reading Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and from a curious point of view. And I had a little small business. I bought a license from this attorney named Lawrence Pino, or it might have been pronounced Pino, but I call it Pino, who had these a series of videos that were instructional on different topics like real estate, wills and trust, blah, blah, blah. And so that's when I kind of got introduced to the notion of being a consultant. So my business was I would do seminars where I basically invited people to come watch the video. I put the video on and people would watch it. Now, this was back in, while I was still stationed Fort Benning, I think in like 83, 84, 85.
Oh, wow.
But that was my introduction to the processes of marketing, which, all right, I want to come back to, I'm out of Primerica and I'm, I had some money and I'm thinking, okay, what do I want to do? And honestly, this is the first time in my life I really sat back, because almost everything in my life was, I kind of just wandered into something and just took it and ran with it or learned from it or what have you. And this was the first time I was actually kind of in a position to think, okay, what do I want to do? And so I said, well, I've been selling life insurance and investments, which people had to have money to buy. So I'm literally making a list. I said, okay, I want to sell something. I like selling. So that was one thing. I like the topic of money. I like to talk about money. I said, now I want to sell something where people don't have to have money to buy it. Now, I'm sitting there thinking, now, how can I make money selling something to people? Oh, sell money. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's right. I know about this merchant cash advance. They don't have to, and you get paid. Cool. The private money thing, the mortgage thing, they need the money and you get paid. So that thought, I said, I don't want to have a bunch of overhead, because I had this big office and gargantuan overhead. I said, I want the business to be virtual and I want my average compensation to be $1,000 per transaction. And I want my customer to be easily identifiable. So those were the 7 elements, if you count back through them, I think there was 7, that were a distinct on paper set of conditions that I wanted to create in going into a business, and it turned into private money lending. So I innately, because I had actually done it, gravitated toward real estate financing. And so I said, okay, now I've got this business thing over here. I know it exists, but I don't necessarily know much about it. So I said, well, I got to come up with a business name. And my son will tell you that I've always been, he and I used to just watch the Godfather movies as just studying them. I mean, even now, after having watched them, I got the series and DVD, and every time I catch it on TV, and I still pick up, it fascinates me how, and we had a guy who produces movies, they think of these little nuanced things that in a series of 2-3 iterations, they still have a thread that goes through. But the notion of what a Godfather represented was something that I felt related to somebody who can help provide capital. Because remember, the Godfather's role in the I call it the cartel, was he had politicians in the finance, right? Okay, so I said, okay, I got the finance. And so that was the idea of the private money part. And then I'm thinking, okay, now just something I knew from studying business is that having money is not the solution to all the factors of production that have to go into a business. You need land, labor, raw material, and capital. And most people have a dream and an idea like I did, but they don't have a grasp of all the other resources. That's why most people fail. So I said, I wanted to build a business where it was like a co-op. I didn't want to have employees, but I wanted to have collaborative relationships with people, kind of like in the military, we call that task organization. You would bring a infantry unit, an armored unit, and artillery unit. You just put them together and form a task force that tackled that project. And I worked on some special project types things where that happened. So I said, yeah, that's what I want my business to be like, so that when clients have problems, we can tackle those problems with the right resources to help them to accomplish their mission. So I kind of went into that military planning mentality with the idea of bringing, and the last thing I'll say that as related to that, standards. Now, from my parents having high standards to my military experience having high standards, I think one of the things, we had a small organization in Primerica in the state of Georgia. We were always in top 5 because I had high standards of what we was expected, what we are out here to do. And so I said, I want the best of the best as part of this team. So I just started looking around, talking around. I discovered you, but that filter was always in my brain, because me and this guy met on the porch waiting for, I was going to be interviewed on somebody's talk show. And I said, he's smart, he does TV. Okay. He's got personality. And so we had a couple of conversations, and I said, and I felt where his heart was. But everybody, Daniel Winton's on here, Darnell Collins, who you'll be hearing from later, Versandra, these weren't just, hey, you like pick up basketball. They were hand selected because of qualities of character and ability and knowledge and productivity that was evident, and we all came together, kind of like the Avengers. But
Right. Assemble.
To the extent that that was that task force
Yeah.
that is out here powering people's dreams. So to kind of tie a bow around this whole process, because there's another step. I got to get to Tiffany Lanice as part of that next phase. But
Right.
that was all the concept that was the architecture. And that's where the name came from, because we're now a syndicate. And a lot of people have the nefarious reference to the word syndicate. But if you look it up in the dictionary, it is a group, or like in the financial services world, when a company is going public, they syndicate. We want to raise $100 million. Chase will take a piece, any of those, I can't think of the big private equity firms right now for some reason, but they'll all take a piece of the offering and they'll go out and promote it. That's a syndication. So
Right.
in the financial world, syndicate is something totally different than most people take it as, but I kind of like the edginess, because it makes it memorable.
Right.
So I got a little, I got a little marketing
become infamous,
Yeah, infamous. There you go. So in the Private Money Godfather persona and the name Private Money Syndicate, it resonates, is memorable, but that's the story of how the idea became an architecture and all the parties and players have come together to form that organization.
Right. Yeah. And so, I want to take some time, and Alfreda Gibson says it's so interesting to hear people's stories of how they got started. Thanks for sharing. I'm sure it inspires others and helps them to realize that they don't have to be experts, just determined, right? And that's the whole point of this.
Let me interrupt you for the benefit of acknowledging Miss Gibson, Alfreda. I can honestly say, and I got a chance to thank her a few weeks back, but she is the first person I just made captain. Just pin it on. And I don't know why we wound up meeting, but she was the first person to talk to me about investing in real estate. And that's when I bought my first real estate investment book, because of her. So thank you.
Yeah. See that?
Yeah,
and again, it's always interesting to see the connections, right? So, because you never know, how it will affect you later, because you and that's part of what we talked about so many times on the show, and people just know, like having that faith, having faith in yourself, having faith in your own dream, your own idea. And I keep saying this because I want people to really, really start to, become aware and participate in this 10,000 Dreams Challenge, right? Because it's so important. It's so important that we get that out there, because your dream is important. You are important. And this just shows that how when you take the steps necessary to make your dream happen, that it will come true. It will come true. It's gonna be laid out in front of you, because it's part of your purpose. When you align it that way, it's just gonna happen. You don't really have to force it or fight it. It just happens that way, right? So now that we know what kind of got you there, right? And you already mentioned about speaking with people like me, and I want to talk about that for a second, because I know one of the things when we were having that conversation on on the porch, we were talking, and it was like, wow, and again, it was the same. It was the same type of energy that I got from you, and I was like, wow, this brother knows a whole lot about finance. That's his lane, that's his area of expertise. I really want to draw off of that, because it's something that it's, as a young entrepreneur, I want to learn, right? Like, I'm just not getting into business, and I'm building my business. So I want to learn these principles, and learn it from someone who's already taking the steps and gone through the things is definitely a benefit. And I just want to give a attestation to that, to people, to know that it's beyond beneficial to have somebody that has that knowledge, that you can kind of bounce those ideas off of, and they're going to give you a straight answer. They're going to tell you, hey, yeah, it makes sense, or no, it doesn't make sense, and then you just got to kind of reconcile that. But it doesn't mean that your dream is not possible. It just means that you may have to change the way that the journey looks, right? Because
Right.
it's not going to be linear. Like, a lot of people think that it's like step one, step two, step three, I'm there. That's not always the case. Sometimes you
Right.
got to spend a little bit more time on step two or step three. And sometimes you got to add an extra step. Sometimes you got to innovate, right? Going back to
Exactly.
what you were talking about that hustle mentality, that
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, thought process, by, okay, well, if this answer doesn't exist, then I'll create it, right? I'll create the answer. And see, that's a business in itself, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
so yeah,
Well,
let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk
well,
about.
okay. Well, let's talk about the chess. I mean, the chess or checkers. The board game, because this hadn't been a straight path,
Right.
um, and so I didn't have a website. So going back to my friend Matthew Chan, the reason I'm bringing I want to encourage everybody, digressing only, because most people want to do everything by themselves. Now, I've never been a great individual. I've been a professional perfectionist type, but I've always realized I'm just a piece of a bigger pie, or a piece of a bigger. I've always wanted to have a team. I think that's
Right.
where I'm at my best, when I
Right.
can contribute to the synergy of a group. So I said, okay. I talked to my friend Matthew, because he was doing publishing. He had a number of books. In fact, we had done some videos, and he had me in a couple of his publications. He had a web, and he said, well, I'll help you develop a website. So he gave me some basic instructions on WordPress, showed me how to buy a domain name. And kind of like I was saying about credit and money, like, okay, I'm learning. So I had I call it my digital postcard website, and I had business cards. And I'm pretty much, I'm a person who will go door to door. I'm telling y'all, I said, when I had my insurance business, I said I was like a politician, shaking hands and kissing babies. It's all about who knows you and likes you and trusts you, and that's who will do business with you. And if they can't do it until they know you. So everywhere I went, I'm networking, and I would pick up some business. But somehow I wound up getting a phone call from this guy, and I can't remember his last name. It was Anthony. He had a finance business out in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so he was doing business finance, and he was noticing I did real estate. And so he and I talked, and we decided we're going to do a joint venture together. And I was going to be the national sales director for, I won't mention this company because we are competitors now. But I said, okay, cool. Because you can do the business, I can do the real estate, which is what I know and like. And we got a broader perspective. And so the other part was recruiting associates. And that's where Tiffany came into the picture. Tiffany, Brian Bowman, it was about 8 people who were part of our team. But Tiffany and Brian and I got to be really, really good. And another guy, LJ. So, we would have meetings every morning. I'm pumping everybody up and everything. We're going out there with cold call. We're doing all kind of stuff to bring the business in. And most of it was on the business side. And so after a few months, things kind of got weird with Anthony. And so one day I just decided that, hey, I'm done with this. And so I sent out an email to everybody, said, hey, I'm letting you guys know that I'm out of here. Sorry that it just ain't working. And so Tiffany, Brian, and LJ, I remember Tiffany emailed me, or maybe she called me, but she said, hey, Superman, wherever you going, I'm going with you. So, and then the guy, LJ, he had worked for a company that did private lending. And so he said, hey, I know he was a techno guy. He was kind of like the maestro, but like 1/10. But he said, I can do all the automations, I can do all the website, and I can do all this business stuff. I said, great, I can focus on the real estate stuff, which is what I want to do. So we did a joint venture, and we were going to do a 50-50 stock swap, because he was at an S Corp and I did. And so we were making money, things were happening, it was just blowing up. And we get to December of 2017, I think it was. And so he's calling me, man, I love you, man. This couldn't be happening without you, because I was bringing most of the clients. And so he disappears for about a week and a half, and then he calls me in January and says, I don't want to do the deal where we do stock swap. I'm like, okay. But now I had learned the business lending side as a consequence of these two relationships. And I got contracts with a number of vendors. Tiffany was part of the team. She was killing it. And my thing was, I want to develop other people into becoming private money brokers. I want to basically create a training environment where they can learn to do, because this is a huge opportunity. I mean, most people don't even know about private capital. And especially, I'll say, in the minority community, it's like they don't know, and they're
Definitely.
getting turned down at the bank. So when we pulled in the other pieces, that's where Daniel came into the equation, because he called me up. Not that I went and found him, but I came to understand that business lending is very multifaceted. And I had a number of relationships, but I mean, it's like doing a Rubik's Cube, and Daniel has the acumen to do that stuff. I can do real estate. But the other piece of it was, we saw people who kept bumping their head like fleas in the, to say how you train a flea, he keep bumping his head into that. And that's why a lot of people don't even apply for financing, because they know their credit's not good. So but we can fix that. That's where Jermaine McCall came into the equation with Backwell Solutions. We got people that can get your credit right quick. And then we got Daniel to help you to get credit lines, which then can go into you having capital to do your real estate investing, which is what a lot of people want to do. So through those series of relationships, now I got to brag on Tiffany. Now, Tiffany graduated from my program, and this sister in like 3 straight months was paying 100,000 in income to her and her business a month. Now, I ain't talking about a month in equipment leasing and equipment financing. So I'm really proud of Tiffany. Thanks for, that's why I call her Little Oprah, because I told her one of my things is I always give away. I give away money. I give away. And I say, I challenge you to give, and you'll see how much comes back to you. And so she took it another level. I'm giving people $5, $10, $100. That she buying people cars and stuff. I mean, that's why I
You get a
started calling
car.
her.
You get a car.
Yeah,
You get
that's
a car.
exactly why I started calling her Little Oprah. So if you're still watching,
Right.
Tiffany, I'm proud of you, sister. I'm really proud of you. She's got her own trucking company now. And
Right.
we
Right.
interviewed her, and we had to get her back
Yeah.
on another time to talk
Yeah.
about how she's built her trucking
Definitely.
company.
See. Yes. Yes. Get an update. Right. Get an
Great
update on it.
single mother with a vision. That's her business name, and she's carried that vision forward. So that's how we went to this next level, which you see now with the help of the maestro. If you got to get your technology right, this website we got now, this is the showroom model. This is the Cadillac. Back in the day, the Cadillac was the cream
Right.
cream
Right.
of
It
the
was
cream,
the symbol.
cream
It
of
was
cream.
the status symbol.
Exactly. So
You made
this
it if
brother
you had
right.
the Cadillac now.
In fact, I bought one. In fact,
Right.
Eldorado. Had to
Okay.
have it.
L
Right now.
dog. Okay. The
Not,
L
not, not,
dog. Right.
exactly. But this
Slant
guy, he
back.
put
Slant
he,
back.
let me get these other shout outs. So my son, uh, he and I meet for our birthday. Our birthday's the day apart, but it was in October. Anyway, he challenged me to get into social media. Now, Sandra was in the same building with me, and I just saw all her social media stuff. So she became my social media consultant. I called Milt up because we had met about a month before, and in November, called him late November, early December. Said, hey, if I'm going to do social media, I need a website. That's how we got the presence. So we evolved from, doing the beginnings of the business to the social media that you now see was Facebook Live, our awesome website. We get hits from all over the world, that people can get great information. If you haven't been to Private Money Syndicate.com, just go to the financing and services page. You can learn everything you need to know. No, the FAQ page. The FAQ page, you can learn everything you need to know about. We want to educate. And so all these things and all these people, I think I brought just about everybody. Darnell, man, if you want to build something, he's in the equation now. Bart Nolde, who he and I went to postgraduate intelligence college. Private equity, scaling your business. I mean, we've got the experts, and that's what I wanted. I wanted a holistic environment, rich soil for people to be able to plant their business ideas, their dreams into, and the fertilizer is the capital, but all these other things are the nutrients that grow this business. So I took it all the way back to the farm from where I began, because I give all these agricultural analogies because that's how I think about things. But yes, that's what the Private Money Syndicate is today. And as the leader of this great group of leaders, the Private Money Godfather is the moniker. And I have to give Satish Mahadio credit for coming up with that, because I don't think I started publicly saying that. But then Sandra is the one who just kept saying it regularly in terms of you got to have a catch, and stuff like that. So all these things are the blessings of the team that you now get a chance to interact with and who can serve you.
Right. And so I just want to acknowledge what people are saying here. Vic Calloway says it is important to have mentors and professionals to help you along the way. So true, so true. Ebony is saying, I am so guilty of that. I am learning the importance of building a team and also being able to delegate. You cannot do everything on your own. And even if you can, having a team around gives you time back so that you can focus on new innovations. Absolutely true. Absolutely. Bobby Jean Ford says, I need to schedule a consultation about my website. Oh yeah, definitely. Please. Go on there and let them know, hey, you need some of my services.
Just hit the button.
Right. You can also contact me on Facebook, Milt Walker on Facebook. You can contact me that way too if you feel more comfortable doing that. I need to learn everything about building a website. We can help you there too. That's one of my things, and I think Tony can tell you. A lot of times Tony's like, hey, just do it for me. He's so comfortable with me doing it. He's like, nah, just do it. I don't need to know anything really about it. Just do it. And so but yes, I love, that's part of what I do, and I love to teach people because we need more people in that space anyway, and it goes back to really just building and empowering people to build their dreams, right? Which is one of the places me and Tony really resonated and connected on, right? That's one of the, at that moment when we both kind of shared that thought, it was like, oh man, this is a match made in heaven right here. This is divinely ordained for us to start doing this. So hey, let's get to it. So we just started to get get busy, and built the website out, using some of the information from the old website, and then really just innovating and one of the things I have to say, and I have to give you props, pushing Tony to think about things in a different perspective, right? Really created the website, right? It really brought out what's in the website, because I was able to really get a vision of what your vision is and then represent that digitally, right? So that's what people,
great job, man.
That's what people feel. It's that energy, and it's just that continuity of the energy, right? From you to me out to everybody else. So definitely, I appreciate the support, because and I just, again, I gotta give props what props are due. Tony's been supporting my business and helping me to grow in my business like he says he wants to do for all of you. So definitely, it's true. It's really true that's what he's here for, and that's what he's trying to do, and that's his mission. So definitely, and as the brother said before, he was in intelligence school. He don't like failing missions. So when he makes you his mission, he's gonna make sure that he gets you where you're trying to go. One way or another, y'all gonna get there. So.
And let me bring something else in if there's not another question or acknowledgement. Now let me talk about dreaming. Just a minute. We got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
In that, as a business, I'll always tell my reps back when I was in insurance finance, because we're all independent contractors. You're in business for yourself, and everybody starts off that way. I said, you got to set a revenue goal. All right. So the first goal is, how much money do you want to bring in? And, again, you got to unleash your dreams. And so I had set a dream that, okay, I want to make $250,000 a year, $250,000. Okay. Now I have to say that, excluding these last 2 years, because COVID kicked in, and it was the year I met Milton. Now, even on a little rinky-dink website, I got to give the context. I had a bunch of leads and people I had a relationship with. The first year I did like 200 some odd thousand. The second year was like 180,000. It went down. No, it was 200, then 180. And then it was in the 80s, below 100,000. So I met Milt. We started, because then I went into these relationships with these guys that had their benefits, but we were splitting everything. But then anyway, when we went independent, okay, it's like, all right, so what's the goal? What's the goal? All right, 250,000. It just so happened I read this book, and I don't know if you can see it for the glare.
Yep.
Get back
Yep.
far enough. This is the millionaire booklet, Grant Cardone. This little thin thing.
Yeah.
But I think I paid whatever to get it. It was supposed to be free, and I paid $5 to get it mailed to me. But you know, he always talk about 10x. So I said, okay, so 10 times 250,000 is 2.5 million. So as Milt can tell you, our goal is to get to $2.5 million in revenue. Now, here's the thing I want to tell you, you know, call upon those things that are not as if they were. One thing I would tell you is that and this is not religiousness, this is, I have faith in my business life, in my business walk, okay? You know, this faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So I kept, in my brain, my intelligence that God gave me kept saying, how do we get to 2.5 million? What do we have to do to get to 2.5 million? Where do we need to go to get to 2.5 million? What do we need to add to get to 2.5 million? And we're growing this thing. So now I've got $23 million deals, $4 million deals, biggest ones we've done so far, that's closed $6 million deals. I figured up, and this is conservative because I don't like to exaggerate. Since I've been in this business, we've done $26 million worth of funding. And we're just beginning, because we were talking about the 10,000 Dreams Challenge. We want to fund everybody's dream. Everybody, because everybody needs to participate in this rich private capital world that is almost unlimited, and we have the combination to the vault.
Yeah, and if they want to go back
and get it to you guys, you know.
Yeah, and if they want to go back and look at the episode with one of the private money partners, right?
Yeah.
You know, he talks about it. He says, you know, he went into the logistics of it to give you backstage seats to see what's happening in the boardrooms and in these banks. And the banks are lowering their lending, but private money lending is skyrocketing, right? There's so much money in the private capital area that, I mean, they're looking for people to give it to, right? So you know, it's only natural for that to happen, right? For us to be positioned in that way to be that partner to people, so that they can fund their dreams. Because I mean, we need it. You know, our economy needs it. The world needs it, because those big ideas that you have, that you feel like, you know, well, nobody's really gonna want it, or, you know, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, or, you know, don't let that be an excuse. Don't let that stop you, right?
That's right. You gotta have faith. You have to walk in faith. You have to, like I said, the evidence of things not seen is you're doing the work toward bringing it into reality. So before we run out of time, if there's any other questions or comments or acknowledgments, I want to make sure that we give those. But I just want to thank the maestro. I love the brother to death, man. Like I said, it's just a joy every single Saturday morning. You know, he's committed like I am to come and bring this information to you. And so we just want to encourage you to like, follow, share, and subscribe to the Private Money Godfather channel on YouTube, to the Private Money Syndicate. And I also want to encourage you to, Bobby Jean, ain't no reason for you not to be talking to him next week. So go ahead and schedule that consultation.
Well, she does say, I will be in touch with Milt. So she did say that.
And that's right. So we want you guys to hit the button. Okay, push the daggum button.
Right.
Consultation. And so with that, I'll let him take over. And if there's anything else, I'll share. Otherwise, I just have appreciated this opportunity to share my story. And we love and appreciate each and every one of you, and want to power your dreams with private money.
And I know I said it earlier, you know, what your slogan is, but hey, man, you got to end the show with that. You got to end the show with what
All
you.
Right. Well, I didn't know if there was anything else I need to say. So as I always say every Saturday, if you're going to go in business and stay in business, you got to mind your business. With that, I'll let the maestro take us on home.
All right. And thank you all for joining and supporting. And again, that link is in the chat. Please go to the Private Money Syndicate, the Private Money Godfather YouTube page, and subscribe, so that you can get updates about this 10,000 Dreams Challenge that's coming out. It's gonna be amazing. We're gonna make it happen for y'all. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. We're gonna make it happen for y'all, and that's what it's all about. So definitely, check that out and stay tuned for all the big updates. Okay, and thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, take care. Be safe.